Hello, my friends, and welcome. Nice to see you all again, be with you. There's multiple sources that are suggesting that this coming week, the 8th, 7th, or 8th of May, is a critical date that represents, in Martin Armstrong's terms at least, a complete change in direction, a directional change, is what he calls it, in terms of the confidence that Americans, wherever. I mean, the issue is kind of across the planet, but people have in the economy. And although it's cast in economic terms, the kind of derivative of that is that people in general do not have confidence anymore in the future, is what it's really essentially saying. And that there are then some more indications from people in different industries that have been told, apparently by government agencies or somebody, leaked. It's hard to know for sure at all. But there does seem to be another rumor, if you will, running around that says on the 8th or so of June that there will be a shutdown of all transportation. You'll be a lockdown. And so if you're caught out on a trip somewhere, particularly, I would guess it would be the case with if you were on an airplane and you were trying to get back on an airplane. It would be very hard, might be very hard to do that. So what in the world is going on? What does that mean? Tell me, if you will, if one of you has a really good idea about why somebody, let's say one of the usual suspects, Russia, China, whatever, why would they take down the whole grid in the United States and the internet? I mean, what do you gain by that? What's the value? Why does that make any sense? That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, the Chinese sure don't need our economy to collapse because they're highly dependent upon it still. The Russians are not particularly interested in doing that. I mean, we're trying to start World War III, certainly, and so they would try not to do that. But if it was decided, whether it was true or not, if it was decided that the Russians had done this, then it would be the beginning of World War III with certainly a war with the Russians. And the Russians don't want that. They don't need that. So you just say, well, wait a second. Why does this make any sense? Why is Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum for the last 3 years been standing up and saying the next thing that's coming is a global cyber attack? And if you thought, in his words, almost exactly, or words to this effect out. And if you thought COVID was tough, you wait until you see this one. Well, why would he even know or theorize that something like that was coming? I mean, where would you come up with that stuff? I mean, unless you knew something or something. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You need to understand that this is not speculation. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these people in this space, and they said it is coming. It is this kind of definitive statement that says it is inbound. And again, you say, well, what are you trying to do? Who's trying to do what to whom here? What's this? What makes sense here? The old thing is follow the money. And I don't even understand how in the world, I mean, if you collapse the economy of the United States and so on, scared everybody to death, I suspect the stock market would crash and then you could buy up a whole bunch of stuff really cheap. But the unintended consequences of something as massive and disruptive as what we're talking about here are, I mean, any reasonable strategic planner would you'd have to take about 3 steps back and say, wait a second, we're messing with something really big here. This could really get out of hand. You don't even begin to be able to anticipate where this might go because the system is so big and so complicated and interconnected. Simplistic kind of notion about what this would do. It would, if you did some implications analysis on this, it'd blow your mind. This is easily is kind of in the same category as trying to do implications analysis of what had happened if aliens showed up and suddenly confronted with the fact that there's life somewhere else and they're here and they know so much more than we do about anything. And by the way, just about everything that we think we know, they tell us that it's stupid and not true, and so on. History, science, technology, theology, cosmology, all these kinds of things. I mean, if you've lived a million years more than we have, then one has to presume that they know a little bit more than we do. And so, again, you get driven back into this situation and say, what in the frickin' world is going on? What's the big agenda? Why is this so important right now? There is somewhere buried in here some existential issue for somebody, for something, for some group that is so big that they are going to try anything that they can in order to kind of fundamentally disrupt life on this planet. And again, we've talked about it before. It's almost as though there is a kind of a time certain in the not too distant future. I really should say in this near future that something is teed up that they know about, and it's almost like the window closes and you can't get out, or the door closes and all your options are tabled. The game is over with. Everybody counts their chips. It's done. But then you keep getting driven into this space. It says, so who's playing this game? What are the purpose? What is the objective? What are they trying to do here? What is this all about? Well, let me try one on you. If you kind of set up let's say, put on the table two different concepts, let's call it. And on one concept, you have all of this extraordinary, increasingly disruptive, chaotic, unpredictable, hard to understand. Makes no logical sense in terms of we all think about. But this stuff is coming. And so there's on one hand is that. And then you got to say, so what's on the other hand? What's on the other side? Now, you all know that I think that there are two tracks, and there's one track going toward this technocracy and its increasing power and, eliminate privacy, and they get more and more control, and they got bots in your brain, and they giving you directions and ideas, and they know where you are and they know what you think, and you are an integral part of a hive mind kind of reality, and that's where it's going. And on the other track, of course, is this next generational jump in the evolution of the species. And what it is the activation, the extraordinary kind of capabilities that reside within all of us that have not been activated, that have been dormant for thousands of years, almost from the beginning, that there was this attempt to kind of constrain. I mean, the stuff I'm reading says we all have 12 strands of DNA and it's all in there, but only 2 of them are activated. And that was done on purpose because those who were in power early on at the time felt that we were a threat to if all of our DNA was fully operational, then we were a clear threat to who they are and what they were trying to do on this planet. And so they genetically engineered this such that we'd only run on 2 cylinders, instead of 12 if it was a Merlin engine. Anyway, so you got to say, well, wait a second. So now what you've got is this possibility that humanity could suddenly blossom in a very short period of time, blossom into this amazing kind of new capability that just dwarfs everything else, makes everything else ineffective. we'd run it. I mean, because we know we'd have all these capabilities. And of course, you can look all around the world and you can see this emergent kind of stuff. And young people in particular, a whole generation of kids who can do things that are just seem like magic. They're crazy, wild. I mean, and even on a local level, I've been going to a healthcare center and sitting in a room, and that's all that's got some of these supposedly scalar energy devices that are in each one of the corners of the room, and they're supposed to generate some kind of a vortex or a torus or something. And the magic part is it seems to heal any and everything that anybody's got. It's one thing to hear people kind of pitch that and you look at it and you got your advertising pitch kind of grid up. And so yeah. But I got friends that I sent over and sat with, and they spend all night in one of these places. And things that have been, in one case, it's a woman who's had aches and horrible pain in all of the major joints in her body and couldn't lift her hand above horizontal for years. And one night in this thing, and all the pain is gone, and she can lift her hand and other stuff. Another guy that a friend of mine that I sent over to this place, he was 6 months ago, the doc said he's going to die in a year because he's got all this heart and pulmonary, all this stuff, and he doesn't really know what it is and can't, and nobody knows how to do it. And by the way, the reason why we don't know why your foot is all swelled all up, and so you've got to kind of wear this boot, this thing all around. And I mean, and he's got no energy, and it should beat him all up in terms of his self-image. And he spends one night in this place, and the foot feels fine. He throws the boot away. He's got more energy than he's had in years. One night. And and you say, wow. I mean, and there are multiple other stories I could tell you. I know the people who have done this, and it's just magic. I want to get one here in Berkeley Springs, as a matter of fact. It's magic. And what the point here is that it's weird. I mean, there's things happening that we do not fully understand. I mean, they try to explain and say it adds energy to your mitochondria and increases it back up to where it was when you were 30 or something like that. And therefore, all of your cells kind of leap up into action, rejuvenated. And so your immune system goes to town, and suddenly, you're like you used to be. I don't know. I've listened to the explanations from these people, and I don't know. It was not obviously, I'm pretty good at understanding things, and I can usually catch stuff in a hurry and kind of get the gist of how it works and the internal consistency and how it makes sense. And I'm still sitting there saying, I don't know about this, but it works. And so you say, wow. So you've got that track going off with this blossoming of these new kind of capabilities and these new activation of kind of innate. It's a fundamental change of who we all are as humans. That's what it is, okay? And so that's, in a sense, a big threat to these guys on the other side, because for whatever reason, and we don't need to go into it here tonight, there are multiple kind of theories about why, but they're about to lose the game, and so they are, as they say, throwing everything against the wall that they got in order to see what sticks, because they're quickly running out of time. Here's what I think it is. I think it's an attack on the whole evolutionary jump of the species. That is to say, they see that if we kind of rise to the occasion, if we are open to the waves of energy coming from the center of the galaxy, the sequential big waves that those who see these things talk about or feel them or whatever they do, because I don't. But I'm reading all kinds. The book I'm reading from the Adians from Barbara Marciniak are saying explicitly this. There's these waves of energy. Well, that's not the first time I've heard it, but this was written back in 2007 or 5 or something like that. And so you go, so you say, so what are they trying? What's the ultimate objective? What are they trying to do? And I think they're trying to suppress the pineal gland. They're trying to essentially assault from many different directions the pineal gland in our brains, because that apparently is the active component, the most active component in this evolutionary push. It is that, it is, if you will, the antenna that, that receives all of the messaging that comes from all this energy and all these other kinds of things that are in our larger unseen reality. It is the, if your objective was to keep somebody from going to the next town, and you were trying to do a strategic approach over time, kind of a grand strategy, if you will, almost to keep somebody from going to Chicago, let's say, from here. Well, you'd work that one from multiple kind of ways. And you'd make it impossible for them to drive a car. You wouldn't get them to where they couldn't, for one reason or another, they couldn't get on an airplane. You control this environment so that they couldn't ride with somebody else, passports or some other kind of thing. Maybe it'd make them sick with something so they couldn't even walk, so that there was just absolutely no way they could get to Chicago. It's almost like that here with this pineal thing, is that there are these multiple assaults, glyphosate and sugar and go on, crap in the air, aluminum in the air and whatever in the electromagnetic. I mean, there are people who say that this 5G is a direct assault on the pineal gland. I mean, it certainly is consistent with this multi-sector kind of, coordinated attempt to try to bring us down in one way or another. And they're doing that to keep our species from rising into this next level. And they're doing it every way they can. And they are doing it by driving fear into the system. I mean, they're doing it psychologically and socially and, food, water, everything. I mean, I just read yesterday that if you go buy, is it apples at Costco? Costco? I mean, I love Costco. We go to Costco all the time. I love Costco. And they're putting this coating on their apples that Bill Gates is funded, and you can't wash it off. And so you end up eating it, and who knows? I mean, it's not that there isn't a reason why they want you to eat it. There has to be a reason why they want you to eat it. I just don't know what it is. But I mean, so it's just this thing. It's coming from every direction after you. And it is really this kind of, the bulls of this target of what they're looking at is the pineal gland. And if they can keep it calcified, ineffective, if they can keep it ineffective, then whether it's on, I mean, I'm telling you, if you watch TV a lot, it's going to that. There are all kinds of movies that if you watch it affects you. It affects your brain. It affects your pineal gland. And so there is this clear attempt, it seems to me, to truncate the evolutionary vector, the trajectory of our species. That's what this is about. I mean, you can talk all about why they want to do that and other kinds of things, but I mean, I've had this little bout with blood sugar business that some of you know about, and so I'm rather kind of sensitive to the whole thing. And when it gets up in the front of your face, you start seeing things that you never noticed before, which is like if you go into a gas station or walk into the convenience store part of a gas station, you will notice, if you look, that fully 90%, 85 at the least, 90% of everything that's for sale is all about sugar. It's just sugar, sugar, sugar everywhere. And that's not without direction, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this is a significant, it's just like smoking and whatever other kinds of things that they've all had. So anyway, one of the things I'm going to do is, keep an eye on this kind of pineal thing and start to look for articles and other kinds of sources that give some more better explanation and some more information about what this all might be about, because I think this is nothing less than an attempt to suppress the evolution of the species. This is a really, really, really big deal. And so those of us who are trying to be there to take part in all of this emergent new world, we got our work cut out for us. But it's going to be interesting. I think we certainly think we win at the end of it all. But it's fascinating to look at the highly coordinated way in which so many things are all just working to try to get us. But it's not going to work. So we'll see you. Thank you. Bye.